The Bitcoin Group, the American original. For over the last 10 seconds, the sharpest Satoshis, the best Bitcoins, the hardest cryptocurrency talk. We'd like to welcome our panelists. Blake Anderson from Facebook.com/GotBlake.
Hi, the internet. Thanks for having me online.
David Seaman from the David Seaman channel on YouTube.
Hey everybody, here's my empty glass.
Theo Goodman from Bitcoin Technical Analysis.
Good morning, everyone.
And I'm Thomas Hunt, also from the World Crypto Network. We'd like to announce that we're being broadcast on the World Crypto Network and on Bitcoin.com. Special thanks to Bitcoin.com. Moving on to Issue 1. Issue 1, Satoshi, not Satoshi. For about 2 hours this week, the world of Bitcoin had a Satoshi. For 2 hours, we knew who controlled the 1 million Bitcoins and had a founder, instantly making Bitcoin less shadowy and less shady, and perhaps causing the price to spike upward, at least until we learned from Motherboard that his keys were backdated, his LinkedIn profile was less than impressive, and he had been dropping hints that he was the original Satoshi all over the net, finally resulting in a spoofed message perhaps from the original Satoshi email account saying, "Dr. Craig Wright is not Satoshi. We're all Satoshi." Blake Anderson, your thoughts on Satoshi Nakamoto?
Well, of course, you know, any Bitcoiner is going to feel about this probably like a common citizen would be like, he impersonated a veteran. People would just like, somebody get him! You know, chase him down, and people would feel justified in, you know, being real riled up. One of the places where a lot of this stuff came out was the Bitcoin Investors Conference at the D. Thomas and I were there as speakers, and I remember when the doctor was talking about different stuff that he had done, just the stuff that was coming out of his mouth and the way that he was saying it, I was like, if this is Satoshi, like I'm out. And then he kind of said enough stuff that I was like, he's like referring to Bitcoin as Turing complete and stuff like that, and it's just like, only in the context of almost no conversation would Bitcoin be considered Turing complete. So, I mean, it's kind of good that Satoshi doesn't come out. I think it speaks to the robustness of what he created. If he created this great, you know, risk management system for the preservation and recording of wealth in an immutable fashion, I mean, you think that he would have better risk management skills than to be discovered and unveiled and, you know, harassed if he didn't want to be. So I think it's another point in the category of he's one smart cat that remains elusive, and we can all be, you know, glad about that.
It was a very strange panel, Blake. I remember watching it live and being surprised at the level of disagreement between Nick Scabo and this guy up on the screen. I also remember later Dr. Salerno told me he was incredibly impressed by Craig Wright's belief that he could test the Bitcoin network and that he had these supercomputers and he was going to test the scalability. But what Dr. Salerno was dying for was a follow-up question. He wanted to know more. He wanted to know the results of the scalability tests. And now we're not even sure if Dr. Wright has these supercomputers. Even that supercomputer power that he was essentially bragging about may also be false. We really don't know. David Seaman, your thoughts on the not Satoshi?
Well, now we're at the point where we've had two false Satoshis be presented to us by the media. And if I were Satoshi watching this, I would not come out as such, because in both cases, fake Satoshi was not treated very well. It's like we got to see two fake Jesuses be crucified, and now the real Jesus might go into hiding, because the first one, they revealed his like personal home address. That poor old man just harassed him, and like the security risk there of this guy's address being exposed, and then the whole world briefly thinks that he's sitting on 1 million coins. And then this one, it was not presented in the most favorable fashion, that his associate was some guy that died broke and penniless of bed sores with alcohol bottles strewn around him. Not exactly the image you want associated with Bitcoin's creators. So I think it was a second kind of hit job on Bitcoin, and I don't think it was even intentional. I think it's just like they went down a weird trail, and it led to this guy who clearly doesn't fit what somebody was calling the intellectual signature of Satoshi. But that's what I take away from it: is if you're out there watching this, Satoshi, first of all, send me a decent tip. Second of all, do not reveal yourself. At this point, if you reveal yourself at all, simply send an anonymous message of some kind after you've burnt your coins, and we would all be so grateful.
You're right, David. It really does have a religious perspective. It reminds me of the story of Prometheus, who, of course, famously brought fire to man and then was chained to a rock to have his liver picked out by birds, then to have the liver regrow and then picked out again until he was freed by Hercules. But very much, yes, Satoshi should stay in hiding. I agree, the 100 million bitcoins is a real big question. So if he did publish proof of burn, that would be an incredible gift, again, to Bitcoin to say, hey, these coins are burnt. But other than that, there's still the question. The media has to know the answer to the unanswered question. Theo Goodman, are you Satoshi Nakamoto?
No, I'm not Satoshi. We'll get back to who, theories about who. Bitcoin, a cult of personality to cult of personality internet thing. No, it's not that. So just stop. I mean, it doesn't really, I don't care, to be honest, who Satoshi is. That's fine. It could be someone's mom or, some group in a basement trading Bitcoin in the meantime. We don't know. So, and that's fine with me. So, but think about how much traffic this story generated. Whoever busted this idea out did a great job of generating traffic and ad revenue and whatever they were trying to do. That was great. It's perfect link bait. It went totally viral. Good job for you. You did what you're supposed to do, and I don't care who Satoshi is, and that's about it.
So now that we've eliminated Dorian Satoshi Nakamoto, Dr. Craig Wright, and Theo, Blake Anderson, who is Satoshi Nakamoto?
Didn't I already comment on this?
Give it to us. Give us a name.
Oh, a name. We are all Satoshi Nakamoto. Satoshi is all of us. So if anybody tells you that they're Satoshi, just throw it back in their face with, "That's good. I'm glad. So I'm so glad that you figured it out, and I'm very happy for you."
David Seaman, who is Satoshi Nakamoto?
Satoshi is probably Nick Szabo and one or two other people. But that doesn't matter so much anymore, because if all 3 or 4 of those people or all one of them were to be hit by a bus tomorrow, all that would do is invalidate those potential million coins that are in jeopardy. And at this point, as Theo said, it's not a cult of personality. We don't need to find the Mark Zuckerberg that created our Facebook. We can just move on and start to use this incredible tool that has been gifted to us by whomever for whatever reasons.
Theo Goodman, who is Satoshi Nakamoto?
Well, I've said for a while, I think Satoshi is an alien or a group of people that had got the idea from aliens. So, that kind of like an alien or, someone not from Earth looks down on Earth and is thinking, what are you guys doing? What's going on here? And then just kind of inserts this open source technology, is just kind of watching to see what happens.
And remember, once humanity is up to scale with Bitcoin, we can interface with the alien currency without any changeover. David, you want to add to that?
Yeah, I don't know about it being an alien creation, but I think it definitely has some psychedelic influences. And I would be willing to bet almost that one of the creators might have experimented with a couple of substances I won't mention by name, but they also influenced Steve Jobs and the CIA, and they're kind of fun. And I think that whoever it was, they definitely thought outside of the box, like way outside of the box that everybody else was thinking in at the time.
So almost like a newer consequence in the timeline of the stoned ape theory, where the ape comes down from the trees, he's on the field, and he flips over the cow turds looking for truffles, eats a psychedelic mushroom, and then looks up and says, "We can go to the goddamn moon," and then that's how we got here. And then like the next blip in that is like Satoshi being like eating some mushrooms and being like, "Oh, this might be helpful." I mean, it could be, man.
It could be. And going back to who is Satoshi, I'm going to agree with the panel. It's probably Nick Scavo. I met him. I asked him personally. I said, Nick, thank you for creating Bitcoin. And he kind of looked at me and he had a little bit of a glow in his eye. And he's like, I didn't create Bitcoin. But I'm not sure about that. He seemed a little happy. So I'm not sure. The jury's still out, but we'll wait to see. And hopefully, like we've all said, hopefully Satoshi stays hidden. It doesn't seem like a good thing to be Satoshi at this moment, especially with 100 million coins. Moving on to issue 2. Bitcoin price rockets to one-year high on record volumes. The Bitcoin price took off again this week, starting from around 390 and hitting heights of 467 before tumbling back to 420, where it continues to range upward. David Seaman, what is going on with the Bitcoin price?
Well, I think we're moving further and further down the space-time continuum. A lot of time has passed since some of us first got into Bitcoin, and 71% of it has already been mined. So you're seeing the coin slosh around and switch ownership, and you're seeing a lot of day traders play around with it. But at this point, it's just becoming mathematically rare because it's being dispersed throughout the society amongst speculators and people who are hearing about it in the media, and maybe some developers who have projects based around Bitcoin are buying it. And it's getting rarer and rarer, and whatever you say about the reasons for the price increase, it does appear to be the real deal. This isn't a Mt. Gox type deal. These are big, regulated, safe exchanges. I think the Coinbase exchange price, the prices coming out of the exchanges in New York, are probably close to the actual price that this thing is worth at this moment in time.
Theo Goodman.
Yeah. Okay. Well, first of all, I have that CoinDesk article. I don't know. It's not exactly right because the high was before that article. But the thing is, they have their own little index, what they calculate on the daily close, and it's not. It's just a little technical thing. Anyway, that's fine. They have their little index, and that's okay.
Outpacing the experts as per usual.
No, it's just I don't know. I was just wondering. Yeah, the price is going up. It hasn't 300 held pretty well. Maybe 400 will hold too. Who knows? We'll see. Probably by the end of this week. And I think a lot of people are watching the upcoming Fed announcement, even though that doesn't directly have an effect on the Bitcoin market. It just has an effect on markets in general, and everyone's waiting to see what happens, if it's going to be a surprise or if it's going to be what's expected. So I do expect some volatility coming up. As far as no Willy bot or something like that, I wouldn't say there's a so-called Mt. Gox Willy bot active, but the majority of the volume is from the offshore, we could call them offshore exchanges, the Chinese-based exchanges, and some of them have no free trading, and you can trade with yourself, a so-called wash trade, to create volume. So it doesn't, if that's good or bad, or if that is affecting XYZ, I don't know, but it definitely seems that that's going on. So that's one aspect. And another aspect that I like to remind people of is, I think David was getting into, is that now we have a lot more coins in circulation as compared to 2013 when we had the big run-up. So, there's always new coins being mined, but the price stays the same or goes up even. And that's different than if there's already all of the Bitcoins mined and the price goes up and down. So that's something just to keep in mind. Also, very interesting, the hash rate is going through the roof. Now, what does that mean? Well, that means someone's got some good miners, but it also means that someone thinks it's okay enough to invest a whole lot of money to make all these chips. So in my opinion, that's a good sign, because if they're willing to get their pocketbook out and invest a lot of money, then they must think the price is going up, because they're going to have to get their ROI at some point.
Blake Anderson.
Yeah, I think the market has been sideways for a while, but I mean, it's just like Theo was saying, when you have these markets where you can trade with yourself, it's like everybody standing in the river and rubbing their soapy garments together to make more and more and more suds and more volume. When you can do that, when you can make your artificial suds at the same time as you can be a whale or someone like that that's moving relatively small markets up and down, then that's a recipe for kind of like Matthew McConaughey said in The Wolf of Wall Street. Nobody knows if it's going to go up, down, or round and round in fucking circles. Least of all Bitcoiners, or least of all stockbrokers. So I think it's good to keep in mind that anything that's going to happen on a short-term scale is going to be heavily driven by people that are involved in ephemeral trading, and probably people that are going to be in like the Whale Club TeamSpeak, or people that are going to be talking to each other about the kind of moves that they're making. It's not necessarily a private thing. A lot of the people that make these bigger moves want people to know about them. Then again, there's also people that have dark pools and a whole bunch of stuff that are not going to be shared, so beware of those too. The general trend is going to be that Bitcoin goes up. It's immutable. It's got a deflationary rate of production, but in the meantime, it's got a small market cap in a giant world that's full of all kinds of shit. So, be careful with your short investment horizons, lest you be swallowed whole.
Exit question, the shortest of short investment horizons. Force prediction. What is the price of Bitcoin next week? David Seaman.
I think we're going to see the price stick around either the 430s to 450s. I think if we do test 500, it's going to come back down. But who knows? That's just my gut instinct there.
Theo Goodman.
I think in 1 week, 450 is not unreasonable. I guess that's a bullish outlook. I think that we could see a lot of volatility coming up in both directions, so just be aware.
Blake Anderson.
Let's say 500. I think that it's going to be 500, but also temper that with what I just said about nobody knows if it's going to go up, down, or round in circles, least of all Bitcoiners.
The correct answer is 520. Up and up and up. We'd like to thank Purse.io, where you can save 20% off Amazon just by spending Bitcoin, and Bitcoin.com for hosting this great World Crypto Network content. Enough plugs. Moving on. Issue 3, Bitcoin Full Node Project and ProTip, featured on the Keiser Report. Chris Ellis and ProTip, the little Chrome browser plugin that could, was featured on the Keiser Report on RT this week, with Chris going toe-to-toe with the venerable but loud broadcaster, with both agreeing that everyone should run a full node and support ProTip Auto Magic Bitcoin tipping on Start Join, or by donating Bitcoin directly. Theo Goodman, your thoughts on ProTip and the Full Node project?
Yeah, I really like ProTip. It's open source software, and it enables virtually frictionless payments on the internet. And it also begs the question: how are we going to consume content on the internet? And you know what? Pay up. You're just going to have to pay up if you want to change it, and that's how it's going to be. Now, it's not going to be an easy road, and it's not going to change overnight. But I think that making it less friction in order to directly compensate content creators without any withdrawal fees or anything else like that, what you have at some centralized services, is the way to go. And the other thing is that it's open source, so hey, if you think you can do it better, just go over to GitHub, check out ProTip, and improve it as you wish or add to it. I really liked the Keiser report. It was a good one. He did a good job, Max Keiser. He's been, doing his thing for a while, and it's always entertaining to watch the Keiser report. The Full Node project is also a really good project related to the ProTip project, and yeah, I really like it, and it shows how you can basically make a DIY 21 computer very easily in the constraints of your own home. You can create your own little factory and then put it live on air.
I agree, Theo. It really is about creating less friction. With the ProTip Bitcoin Wallet plugin, you can tip 10 people a week without having to configure it. That means that over a course of many weeks, you're soon tipping hundreds of people without actually having to type it in, without having to actually click on things. You just keep browsing like normal. You put $5 in once a month, and you just run ProTip. You can also do that with subscriptions. You can subscribe to any Bitcoin address with the ProTip browser plugin, and it'll pay that address $1 a month or whatever you configure. And I think that's how to spread Bitcoin, automated. Blake Anderson, your thoughts on ProTip and the Full Node project?
Well, this is going to get really, really macro here. I mean, I throw back to this sometimes, but it's, the future that Kurt Vonnegut kind of wrote of, where like there's giant shifts happening right now, and if we sit on our hands and do nothing, it's going to be the government eating up all the excess value that technological advancement produces, and then leave us with nothing, as it's finally we're wrung out, and then we're at the point of some kind of a horrifying collapse. We either allow that to happen, or we can, support things like Bitcoin that diversify the financial institutions into something that's more responsible, and then, support a project like ProTip, wherein we can, undo the deep capture that's been done by the mistakes of the current monetary system. We can actually have a, bi-directional problem solve, a candle burning at both ends, where we're fixing the monetary system and incentivizing people at a core level to produce content that's meaningful to them on an individual level, that's not corrupted by some kind of a message of, whatever have you, by, GE letting you know that, any energy that you make on your own is bad or unhealthy. We don't want to pay for content like that. We want to pay for the content of the people that mean something to us. So in the macro context of trying to make the world better, these are, this is an incredible project. And then again, the DIY aspect of letting people know you can build, full nodes on your own terms. You can, strengthen the Bitcoin network. You can have a positive impact. It's not difficult. Anybody can do this. I mean, my hat's off to Chris. He just keeps, working harder and harder, and it's great to see Max recognize that and kind of, Max paying his due a little bit. So I thought it was a great episode, and really proud of Chris.
David Seaman.
Yeah, first of all, big props to RT for all this great coverage of Bitcoin. The Max Keiser report has definitely covered a lot of stuff in a positive manner, as has RT proper. Some people credit my kind of indie popularity with being on a bunch of podcasts, but it was actually all the times I was on RT shows in New York and then later in LA that kind of built up my following. And it's amazing to me that even when the Russian government was very anti-Bitcoin for a little bit, it sounded like from those kind of anecdotal reports, the cable network RT was full steam ahead, one of the few cable networks really covering this in depth and not just giving the superficial crap treatment that CNN and stuff were giving at the time. But to go to what Theo said, you're going to have to pay up. I like that idea. There was an IBM report that I tweeted out earlier today about how to democratize the Internet of Things. It was a free report they put out last year. Obviously, they have their eyes on cryptocurrency. The whole report kind of hints at that without directly saying it too much. And there's a great quote in there. I'll just quote it directly. "The dream of a smart, safe, and efficient future is threatened by subscription fees, ubiquitous advertising, and intrusive surveillance." And I think the subscription fees are actually part of the solution, but aside from that, I agree completely. I think ubiquitous advertising and freaking adware everywhere that is able to infiltrate through your web browser, and all the surveillance and all the data mining, when you think you're getting free content, it's not free at all. You're selling your soul. So why not hand over a few Satoshi to access somebody's content? And I think that's the way that the world will eventually go, because it makes so much more sense.
Exit question. Did Max Keiser birth mad Bitcoins? Max, are you my father? Theo Goodman.
I don't think so. I don't think that Max Keiser birthed you, Thomas. So, just keep searching for your father, and, you will find him one day.
Blake Anderson.
I know it happened. I mean, I saw the movie Junior. I'm not stupid, and sometimes it happens. In this case, the world received a gift, so I know about looking gift horses in the mouth, and I'm gonna say thanks.
David Seaman.
I like to be a contrarian whenever possible. I'm a bit Peter Todd in that respect, so I'm going to go with yes. He is your father, and he and Bliff Masters some years ago met up at a bar, liked what the other was about, and as a result, we now have you. So.
What an incredible story. I can't top that at all. Moving on to issue 4. Josh Garza, GAW miners charged by SEC in Ponzi scheme. GAW miners, famous for allegedly selling miners that did not exist, and plugging Paycoin, which famously had a $20 floor, which it fell far below, was dragged into court this week by the SEC in the first major U.S.-based prosecution for a cryptocurrency scam. Blake Anderson, is this scam limited to GAW miners, or is this just the first in a potential viral outbreak in SEC charges? Is the entire Bitcoin industry going to catch on fire? Go ahead.
Well, first of all, yes, the entire Bitcoin industry is going to catch on fire. Everybody should get flame retardant things to protect themselves. Yeah, I mean, Ponzi schemes and Bitcoin mining, like that's a combination that's ripe for malfeasance. It's very upfront, cost heavy. So you're going to have to invest in a infrastructural situation which has air filter and cooling, and then get a whole bunch of stuff installed. It's way, way, way easier to just get a whole bunch of money up front, trickle out a little bit because that's what your obligation to do is anyway, and then just continually have new money going in to pay old investors. That's kind of like the trap that GAW miner fell into. But then, like, if that's true, why open up Zen miner so that you could do it up like even more? Like, if I start another company, then I can have even more debt and contracts. And then Paycoin, where they're like, we got a $20 price floor. It's like a peg like that's that irresponsible. It's just ripe for draining. And I mean, this is just a disastrous nightmare. I mean, was it accidental? Maybe at first, but like, you have to, when your business model runs out, you can't just start stealing money and then be like, well, I stole as much money because I possibly could to keep things between the red and the black before we shut down. And that's just how things go. That's not an excuse in business. You don't do that. You have to let people know that you're planning on paying existing debts with new investment money, and most people won't agree to that. So when you don't do that as a Ponzi scheme, it does not work out. There's a big risk of that happening around lots of mines. So do your homework, make sure that you're getting your hash power, that you're getting your equipment, that they have a good relationship with the amount of power that they're consuming and aren't going to have to turn off as a result of high power maintenance fees and stuff like that overnight. Really, really do your homework.
If only they'd set the floor at $10 a coin, it all would have worked out. David Seaman.
Yeah, I think it's funny that it was called Paycoin. It's like he tried to do the Sean Parker move from The Social Network, but failed miserably. It's like, Bitcoin's not cool. You know what's cool? Paycoin with its alleged $20 floor. I think that $20 floor is what attracted a lot of the kind of influential people in Bitcoin. And it was so not morally offensive necessarily, so intellectually offensive, because you're like, how does this fucking work? Like, where is this floor coming from? Why wouldn't Bitcoin have a $2,000 floor if this was practical and not just a total scam? And I think, again, it was the intellectual offensiveness that probably attracted a lot of investigators and whatnot. And I don't think it's part of a viral outbreak. I think this is a case where he was upsetting a pretty significant percentage of the crypto community. And at that point, it probably triggered a closer investigation, and then they probably just saw the steaming pile of shit that it appears it might have been. And so that's what I make of it. But again, I have not been following Josh Garza all that closely, so I don't want to speak out of turn here.
I can say it was very interesting to be at the Bitcoin conference in Miami last year, just around this time, around January in Miami. We were out there. Paycoin sponsored the conference. So when they put the big glowing light on the building that said Bitcoin and Miami Bitcoin Conference, they also put a Paycoin logo up. And it was really interesting because after the party was over, the Paycoin logo stayed up, meaning they had spent more money. Inside of the bar, they were looping this really well-produced Paycoin commercial. Paycoin is this. Paycoin transfers rubles. Paycoin does everything. And it was like Paybase. And at the convention, they had 3 large booths. They had a lending outfit, they had the Paybase outfit, they had the GAW miners outfit. I heard Josh Garza came to the event briefly, but he had to have bodyguards. It was a very strange event. I'm glad I went. I think the Paycoin swag that I got will be worth more in the future, go up in value. But yeah, very, very strange event, a lot of questions. Theo Goodman, your thoughts on GAW miners and the collapse?
My thoughts on it are, okay, I want to go into the whole thing Ponzi. So actually, I have no issue with Ponzi's as long as it's voluntary. So if I say it's a Ponzi and you want to join in the Ponzi, then that's fine. Let's just do it. And that's essentially what MMM is. And I really don't have any issue like that. Now, as far as, I mean, if you say, oh, it's cloud mining, you know, or something like that, then that, of course, you know, that's, you know, you see what happens to that. Also, an ironic point, Paycoin starts with the letter P. So it's kind of like a little joke. See, P for Ponzi, P for pay, Paycoin. So it's just kind of like a little, I don't know if it was on purpose or not, but I think it's a little joke. So, yeah, and I think what happened is someone got burned, or more people got burned, and they decided they're going to contact the authorities. And then that's how it escalated. I'm guessing. Okay? So I think that's pretty much what happened, and you know, buyer beware, you know, do your homework. I mean, if it sounds too good to be true, then it probably is. I mean, come on, do you really expect that you're going to buy Paycoin and it's going to hold this $20 floor? I mean, come on, people. How many times
At least
do you have to see
if
that?
everything else in the world goes to shit, my Paycoin will be worth $20 a pop.
That's right, because a guy on Google Hangouts said so, and he has a picture of himself in front of these massive mining rigs, and it's like, yeah, cool, got it.
And he has a scrolly, pumpy website. Right?
Yeah, right. I mean, you know, should be obvious enough, but, you know, guy, if you want to run a Ponzi, then just say, hey, we're running a Ponzi, we're paying out massive amounts, and, you know, all Ponzi's come to an end. But if you get in at the right time, right now, then just do it. Then that's cool with me. Then everyone knows what's up, and you can just do it.
Theo is okay with Ponzi's, a radical departure. Here we are to our exit question. Next company or part of the Bitcoin industry to be charged with a crime. Blake Anderson.
I think anybody that is not honest about what they're doing with their stuff is at risk of being charged with a crime, because when you're transferring Bitcoin in and out of different things, or trying to use held funds on the back end, or you're commingling assets, then you could get in some pretty deep trouble. So I think that anybody that's running a token substrate is at risk of you know, getting in trouble or being shut down. So that could be any number of companies.
David Seaman.
I don't mean to single them out because I think they're doing anything wrong. Quite the opposite. But I think that given what it does, and given the fact that they're very intentionally not taking all of the AML KYC stuff that certain U.S. authorities would expect, and they're not doing that because they feel they don't have to, and they feel that it would actually, I think, invalidate the utility of their service and the efficiency of it. That's my understanding. But I think Shapeshift.io is going to come under some serious scrutiny, and they'll probably win as long as they have a smart legal team, because what they're doing, as long as it's in Switzerland, and as long as, you know, they're treating it as you would any kind of swap of goods that's not really traditional financial tech, like a traditional currency. I think they can win this if they were to be attacked, but they seem to be the most vulnerable because they're simply not taking the information that these fascists want us to continue taking. And at some point, we do need to have a discussion about AML KYC itself, because they keep using this as a kind of boogeyman to slow down innovation. And there's got to be a point at which we realize that this is a serious drag on the economy and a drag on innovation. And if we're not expecting people who use paper cash, like a restaurant or a gift shop that accepts hundreds of dollars in cash, if they don't have to fill this out, why should Shapeshift.io? But I think that's a question that might play out in the courts. I think they're kind of attracting attention. So.
Agreed, David. And those money laundering laws were mainly put in place in the 70s to fight drug prosecutions. So again, we have the war on drugs affecting our legal system, affecting our ability to get new ideas into our economy. And I agree, Shapeshift is in a tight position. The saddest thing about Shapeshift, it's great software, it works fantastic. It just missed its window. It seems if it had been out a few years earlier, everyone had Litecoin, they had Dogecoin, they needed to trade them. It would have been a perfect time for that system. It seems they just barely missed their window. Theo Goodman, who's next?
I have no idea who's next, ladies and gentlemen, but I think that I'm going to echo a lot of those things. Yeah, anyone that's the so-called token substrate, which is, if you're operating some kind of fractional reserve system, then of course you're at risk, because what if, there's a bank run essentially on your service and you can't pay up, then someone might get angry and, the authorities are just looking for something to, investigate, and they can say, hey, they can wave a flag, Bitcoin, we want attention too. So, everyone wants attention, everyone wants to be relevant, and when everyone sees those kind of cool things happening, they want to play in the same sandbox. And if they're an authority, they're going to look for so-called wrongdoing. Now, I don't know, a lot of some of the projects that have issued tokens for I don't even know what I can call them without. It's not an IPO, but it's like some kind of thing where you sell
like
before the project's finished.
They've called them ICOs, official coin or initial coin offerings.
Yeah, initial coin offerings. So it's like we don't want to drag auger through the mud or anything.
Or you could just call it a pre-sale. Let's just say, and I mean it's pretty clever to kind of, not make, it's not a share and all that, and that's clear enough, but the whole thing with the duck and the authorities, they're not really into that. I mean, to them it looks like a duck, bam, we got you. So I'm a little worried about that, even though that some of the projects have really good innovations and I like the project. I'm just worried about, why are you launching an IPO essentially in the US? I mean, if you're going to do it, why not just move everything to Belize or I don't know wherever else and then do it?
Good point, Theo, on the ICOs and the pre-sales. I think I don't have insider information here, but I've seen too many reports on Reddit of withdrawal issues at Cryptsy. So Cryptsy may be in trouble. Cryptsy, like David said, is close to Shapeshift. They are trading a lot of strange altcoins. A lot of people might have tried to launder their money through these altcoins. They may be very unsuccessful if Cryptsy gets seized and has a bunch of log files. We have no idea information on that. It just, the withdrawal errors look bad.
How recent are these withdrawal errors that we're seeing on Reddit?
They've been, 1 or 2 a week for a while, and the general, I asked tech support and they wouldn't help type responses. Theo, do you have more to add?
Yeah, it's been going on for over a month. It's just that now it's just getting big enough that it's on Reddit and stuff. There's a really long Bitcoin Talk thread about it. So I hope that everything works out okay and people can withdraw whatever they need to withdraw.
Well, whatever they're doing and working on at Cryptsy, everybody gets super upset and flood them with complaints so that we get it resolved faster. Like, go forth from this show and make life difficult for them.
Well, I'm not going to say that. That's not the official views of the World Crypto Network. But anyway, moving on to predictions or story of the week. Blake Anderson, are you ready with a prediction or a story of the week?
Yeah, I guess my story of the week, or time to talk about myself. I've been advising for a company called Ubiquity, and they're pretty cool. My friend Nathan Wozniak is working with them. They're working with some people to basically use blockchain technology in a responsible way to help people build contracts and stuff for medical stuff. And I advise for several different blockchain organizations, and Ubiquity is my favorite. Basically, they seem to have the people that are the most down to earth and the most honest and stuff. So Ubiquity's cool. They've been in RT a few times, and I like them a lot. Some of the other, I guess, more popular blockchain firms are a little bit less. I don't know. Their reputation is a little less sterling. So it's good to try to stick with people that have good morals, and that's how I feel about the folks over at Ubiquity, my buddies. So check them out.
David Seaman, a prediction or a story of the week.
I will go with a prediction, so that since I enjoy doing that. I think that the alt market is going to be decimated over the next few weeks or the next month. I think you'll see a repatriation back into Bitcoin and a surprisingly large immigration into Ethereum, because if you own a coin that is not Bitcoin right now and it's a proof of work altcoin or a proof of stake altcoin, you have to seriously look at the growth of the community that supports that coin. And if it's not growing, or if the hash rate of your coin is so low that somebody with 5,000 bucks could overrun the whole currency just for fun, just for giggles, there's going to be a whole kind of paradigm shift for people want to go back into Bitcoin, especially now that it's getting that top level attention from banks. And the fact that Bitcoin in 2015 is really the only currency that you get sent Bitcoin and it can be in your US bank account or your Canadian bank account the next business day with certainty through Coinbase or Circle. And with the altcoins, we've seen attempts at that. I think Coin Payments has done some cool stuff, but they just haven't come anywhere close to the inroads into everyday money that Bitcoin already has. So to echo this prediction, big repatriation into Bitcoin, big drop in a lot of the alt projects, and surprisingly large lift from Ethereum, which will largely come from alts, not from Bitcoiners getting into Ethereum at these prices.
Theo, Goodman.
Story of the week is going to be the Fed announcement, and if the interest rates are going to go up for the first time in a long time, or if they're going to go down, or if there's going to be no change, and nobody knows what's going on. And since negative, yeah, negative. I mean, everything is on the table at this point, even though the basically most of the like Bloomberg or wherever other talking head style places are saying for sure there's going to be a rate hike. I don't know. I'm kind of doubting it, so I guess I'll go out and say no rate hike. That's my prediction, live on video. And if I'm wrong, then you can comment and scold me later.
I'm joining Theo's camp. I agree with Theo. I think there's going to be no rate hike. I think it's impossible.
We'll see. And now, a prediction. A tiger cannot hide its stripes. A leopard cannot change its spots. People who seem shady and fishy usually are. The same for companies. If you can't figure out what the product is you. Bitcoin is a revolutionary technology, but scammers and con artists are as old as the earth. We need to get better at spotting them and shutting them down. Bitcoin is too good for us. It deserves better. Oh, we're out of time. Until next time, bye-bye.